Hello everybody and happy Friday. Today we're going to talk about OnBase upgrades and my guest is Brian Thorson from SCL Health. We're happy to have him here today and we're going to talk about his OnBase upgrade experiences and everything else about OnBase and Highland technologies in general. And feel free to join into the conversation and look forward to talking with all of you in a minute. OnBase upgrades. So Brian has many years of experience and has gone through a lot of Epic upgrades and OnBase upgrades with an Epic and OnBase integrated environment. So he has a lot of experience in this area from maybe more than many of us on the line. So it goes way back to, was that the version 11, Brian?
Yes, actually all the way back to version 11.
Yes. So since you version 11, you've been upgrading OnBase and at SCL they use Epic for EMR and OnBase is being used in various areas. So today he's going to go over the upgrade, lessons learned, the strategy, and what are some of the things that watch out for any of you. This is probably on-prem customers of Highland, probably are the ones that are maintaining the application themselves. Probably find a lot of good lessons learned in terms of this. So let's go ahead and get started. Brian, I'll leave it up to you and let's just talk about the next hour upgrade and what are some of your experiences are, and we would love to learn from you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ediz. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with everybody today. I do want to make this as interactive as possible. You could submit questions in the chat or feel free to unmute your phone and let's have a dialogue if you have any questions. Again, I'm Brian Thorson. I'm the ECM manager for SCL Health, mainly supporting the OnBase system. And let's see here. Today, we are going to talk about, just give you a little bit of an overview of SCL Health, what our health system looks like with hospital and clinics, a couple of the different upgrade strategies, and then we'll kind of go through some of our lessons learned that we've encountered through our many upgrades, as well as the newest ADO.NET database connection string, which works very well, by the way.
Yeah, I noticed that, Brian. So I did not really understand the content of the ADO.NET database connection in terms of the upgrade. As really excited to hear about that a little bit. So what?
Yeah, it works really well and it does improve performance, but we've noticed a couple quirks with it. And so there may be some people who have experienced that and maybe not. And then we'll go through some question and answer time as well. But again, if you do have a question as I'm talking through something, feel free to ask your question and we can have that conversation.
Yeah. Before we get started, so when you're going in, I'm really actually dying to ask this question since a lot of I know it's kind of related or unrelated in a way, but I wanted to ask the audience, is anybody currently on the Highland Cloud? And just would love to hear from them. If you're on the Highland Cloud currently in production or test environment, or you are about to go in, please just let us know in the chat window. We'd love to follow up with you guys on that. Anybody in the Highland Cloud currently? Because this upgrade presentation will go to mainly, we'll talk about on-prem upgrade, but yep. Just see if there's anybody out there.
Yeah, no, we've, to add on to that, we've started discussions about possibly moving to the Highland Cloud, but we are not far along in that process.
That's what you said?
No, okay, so I guess nobody at the moment, okay.
All right, so SCL Health consists of 8 hospitals. We have 5 in Colorado and 3 in Montana. We used to own hospitals in Kansas, and we even had one out in Santa Monica, California for a brief period. But we sold those off, and we're just really concentrated in Colorado and Montana right now. And we have over 200 clinics that are live with Epic and OnBase in some extent. So we're a multi-state system, but we've really kind of consolidated the states that we're in. As Ediz mentioned, we did go live on OnBase back in October 2011. We went live on version 11, which seems like years and years and years ago. And we're currently on version 18.01.49. And we're in the process of upgrading some of our components to 18.01.77 plus. I think it'll actually be 18.01.89 is the latest 18 version out there. And I'll kind of get to some of the reasons behind that in a few minutes, but we've gone through 4 OnBase upgrades. We've upgraded from 11 to 13, 13 to 14, and 14 to 15, and then we made a big jump from 15 to 18 last year. And that was probably the biggest change to the system, except for 11 to 13. I think that was a pretty significant change as well. So we've gone through 4 on-premise upgrades. I've personally been involved with all of them. We have had some Highland support, but not much through these upgrades. It's mainly been myself and our team that have performed them. And as Ediz mentioned, our EMR system at SCL Health is Epic. And we went live in that back in July 2009. We kind of brought all our hospitals and clinics up on Epic and OnBase at the end of 2011 and into 2012. So that's really when we brought everything up onto the same platform there. And we're currently on version of Epic of May 2019. And we have an upgrade in process to the next quarter, well, a couple quarterly releases to November 2019 right now. And that's slated for July, and we'll be doing the other Epic quarterly releases in November of 2020 this year. So that's kind of SCL Health at a high level. We've definitely had a lot of experience with the on-premise upgrades, and definitely have a lot of knowledge to share, a lot of lessons learned.
So Brian, I wanted to ask you about the just kind of like the team structure. So we haven't looked in the slides yet, all of them, but can you tell us like how big of a team is the OnBase team? How many people do you have?
Yeah.
And what just talk about the team maybe a little bit, and then we can talk about some of the what does your infrastructure look like right now, and how do you guys support it?
Yeah, so our OnBase team has definitely changed and evolved over the years. Back in 2011, when we started, there was only a couple of us on the team. And I think 2012 was when we really expanded and added 4 new people then. Mm-hmm. And kind of have slowly grown our sysadmin support for the application over the years. So currently, I manage a team of 8 individuals, or actually 7 now. 7 individuals, 5 are strictly dedicated to supporting OnBase and some of our other interfaces and e-signature application. And then we have 2 individuals that work on the forms for the system.
Oh,
Because we
specifically
don't,
for forms and things like that, Unity forms?
well, not just Unity forms, but really our hospital forms, because my team also supports the e-signature application. So,
Oh, I see. You guys do the forms
um,
committee. They have a form.
yep, we get the forms committee,
Okay.
forms governance, work with all the stakeholders there. So,
Okay.
Um, but yeah, we have
But
myself and then 5 others that specifically manage or support our OnBase application. And our architecture's a little bit unique. It's kind of evolved as we learn things through the years.
okay, so I wanted to. So Scott's asking if your on-base developers or admins are also administrating the infrastructure of the servers and all that.
What is Scott asking?
He's asking if your team members are also administrating the infrastructure. I'm assuming just the servers and all that configuration that goes in where the on-base servers are running.
It's frozen. The question is in the chat.
All right.
So Scott asked, hoping there's going to be some background on your system, database size, complex system, many devs or just a few. To the devs, I'm assuming those are the on-base administrators, also administer the infrastructure.
Let me see if I can get back to that window here.
I just wanted to read it to you. So do you maintain the servers, like patching the servers yourselves, the database, disk space, that sort of thing? Do you guys do that, or do you guys have like a server team or a network team or some other team that does do the maintenance on the servers?
So sorry, let me get back to the slides here. So our our team does the support. So we actually SCL, we have a systems team, we have network team, we have a VMware team, because our architecture is all our servers are virtual machines. They're all VM machines, including the database. Our database is hosted here in Denver at our data center, along with our servers. And we have a disaster recovery out to Kansas right now, because that's where our other data center is. But yeah, so we have a systems team that actually helps us with the Windows patching and the server maintenance piece of it. However, anything that's application related, whether it's like upgrading the system, troubleshooting, different things there, our team of sysadmins are responsible for that.
So Cynthia asked about what is your team's specific roles around the forms? So our HIM department manages the forms is what she's saying. So can you maybe just give her a little bit of understanding of what are some of your team's involvement in terms of the forms committee?
Yeah, so yeah, our team with the forms, they manage all the forms. They take in all the requests. We have a certain mailbox, a Google mailbox for them. We have templates within our ticketing system specific to form requests. So our forms team manages all the form requests that come in across our sites and clinics. And they make those updates to the forms. They get the proper approvals with the different forms committees. We actually have them broken out into a couple different committees. Currently, our consent forms are handled by a specific committee, and then some of our other procedural stuff is handled by a different committee.
So I'm assuming, Brian, is that
But yeah, our team
based?
manages all those requests,
Uh-huh.
manages the updating of the forms,
Is that
gets them to
OnBase? Really? Is
the,
that which solution
they're
is
not
being
all
used?
in OnBase
Okay.
yet. We don't have them all there yet, but we do have some in our e-signature application, and
Epic
we do
application,
make.
or is it the Epic one or the OnBase
What
one?
was that?
There's a lot of questions around this common area. I'm trying to get a little bit of clarification. I'd see the chat window. People are asking about, like, when you say eForms, are you utilizing utilizing the Epic one and Epic integrated Epic based technology that does the e-signature, or are you guys using Unity
So
Forms or some other on-base e-signature product?
yeah, so some of our forms are, well, obviously there's still forms on paper, but we do have forms within our e-signature application, which is through Bottom Line,
Yep, bottom line.
the
Okay.
logical link application. We went live with that back in 2016, really before Highland or Epic really had that functionality in place. Um, we do have forms in Epic as well, that are used for e-signature capability. And we are looking into kind of moving a lot of that over to possibly the Highland image form platform, but that's still a project or decision that needs to be made within our organization about the form strategy or the e-signature strategy going forward. So it's still kind of a hybrid solution, but I'd be happy to talk to anybody offline about their specific forms questions as well, or have a follow-up podcast about that. Because
All
I
right.
know forms management is a pretty big piece of our puzzle here.
I see. So I think a couple of people mentioned that some sound issues with my mic. Are you guys hearing me okay now? Is that better?
Yes.
I switched
Yep.
my mic. Sorry about that. I apologize. Thank you, Scott. Um, I switched my mic. A few mics going on. I thought this would be better, but I guess not. Um, so let's, yeah, I think there's, in terms of the e-signature, I know we can do like a separate one. Maybe we'll do a next one about e-signature. A lot of questions coming in. So we'll just reel back into the OnBase upgrade discussion. But I want to say I use the bottom lines forms e-signature module too. It's a little bit of pain in the butt to get it integrated with Epic, but once you do, it's actually pretty flexible. I think the amount of time that you take a new form, publish new forms, make new forms, and put some JavaScript logic or whatever you might want to put in to these
Yep.
forms is much more robust than your Epic e-signature module. It's probably a lot cheaper too. So, but you'll just leave the e-signature questions
Yeah,
there for now, and
it's
then
actually a good product. Our staff really likes it. There's limitations with that within Epic and some of the other applications out there that could do it. And yeah, our staff is really helpful or satisfied with it. And I know it saves us well over 1 million to 1.2 million pages per year. And I know that number will continue to increase as we increase the use of the application across our system. So
okay.
it's definitely been a great tool for us.
All
So,
right, that sounds good. So let's go back to the upgrades. So what are some of the things you wanted to share with us in terms of the upgrades? Just
yep.
I know 18, like right now, a few places that I'm working on are still on 16, and we have some. I know you have like this. I don't know what you call it, but Ipop strategy. So maybe you can mention a little bit about what you mean by that. I've heard people talking about it in the past, so we'd like to get some clarification on that, what that means. Uh,
Yeah. So I took some of this information from some different presentations. I know some of them were at Community Live, and I know they've had different webinars about upgrading OnBase. Highland has. So the next couple slides, I did take this data from them. But a synchronous upgrade, obviously, is everything gets done at the same time. You upgrade the database, you upgrade your app servers, you upgrade your Windows services, you get the clients pushed out and upgraded to the workstations, and everything's in a big long window, and that could be that could be like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of time to get some of that upgraded and deployed. Um, Currently, when we were back on version 11, we had a database server, we had a file server, couple processing or application servers, and I think maybe only like 3 web app servers to run our integrations and app pools. But since then, our footprint has definitely grown. We have a clustered database now. We have three processing or application servers that run our Windows services and backend processes, and we have nine web servers that run our different application pools and integration points. So, we have 15 servers versus, maybe 5 or 6 previously. So just by that growth, the time it would take you to upgrade just your, the main on-base components would increase if we were to do this all at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a longer downtime window, and it takes a lot more coordination and effort to kind of get everything upgraded all at the same time.
So Brian, I have some questions about people are asking about how do you update your clients? So I'm assuming these are
Yep.
Unity clients or TIC clients, whatever it might be. Do you use a push tool of some kind like Landesk, or do you have some other mechanism? What can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was gonna bring that up later, but we'll address it now too. So we've actually, when we first went live on 11, we deployed the thick client to our end user workstations. I actually forget the tool that we used to do this in the past, or at least our systems team did it in the past. We use actually Software Center, I think through Microsoft today. We get the packages built up and deployed there, and then they can just push them out to a list of workstations.
But that's way back when you use the TIC client, right? Or do you still have TIC client?
Yep. No, so yeah, we don't. That was back when we used the thick client, and it actually worked pretty well. And we did it, the last time we did it was when we upgraded from 14 to 15. We updated, over 1,000 different workstations with the new thick client that was pushed out. And then, of course, there's always a few workstations you have to manually go and update because it didn't work for some reason. But yeah, we would get it packaged up and we would use a tool to deploy it out.
How about now? What do you guys do now in terms of?
So now we've actually transitioned to have our users exclusively use the Unity client. And we deploy that over Citrix. So, there were some challenges there with getting the Unity client deployed over Citrix. But it's a lot easier to maintain because you really have to just worry about, a kind of a gold copy of your Citrix disk.
Yes.
They can install the Unity client there. You can validate it. make sure everything's working, and then they can create or spin up, as they say, spin up as many servers as they need to
Yeah.
with the Unity client deployed on it. I believe ours has, I think we have 8 to 10 Citrix servers for the Unity client.
8 to 10. Wow, that's a big number. That's really good.
Yep.
That's really good. I had similar experience with the Unity client. So last year, I was working at a site where they had about 40 users or so that were in the referral center, going to Unity client. And some of it, I think, some things, I think when you don't really have the specific experience, sometimes you learn with trial and error. I put them all into to Unity client on their desktop first. So like in their computers, I put them all into Unity and have them start working that way. But these folks were doing a lot of different things, and managing how they do their scanning, important how they were interacting with some of the PDFs. We had some clients crashing based on some of the how Unity, that was a version 16, and they had some problems with Unity 16 working with some of the PDF documents. They were calling me, hey, my Unity client closed out on me and things like that. So we ended up finding that those reasons crashes were related to some Adobe settings not being very welcome by the Unity client. But then, when I saw that people are crashing on their Unity client all the time, and just like you said, we put everybody, they had a Citrix, but they didn't, we put them on the desktop version. So what I had to do is put them immediately on Citrix. And on the golden copy that you're mentioning, we did some tweaks so that it won't cause any crashes for, and then just take all the desktops out of it. So if one of the, on that part, I have a comment to make too. What I would just kind of suggest for anybody who's doing deployment for Unity client, for or upgrades or something else, doesn't matter. My suggestion would be if you're in an especially environment where people are, and most environments are like that, to be honest, people getting new PCs all the time, or their systems are slow, they getting upgraded. So my suggestion would be just to have Unity client published, Unity published over Citrix would be your best bet, because I've had to deal with a lot of Unity client issues. People say, oh, now I got a new computer, I was fine. And now when I'm working on documents in the workflow or something, and I have this 50-page document, I'm trying to split it using doc separation, my client crashes. So those kind of issues I was able to eliminate by putting everybody on the golden version, golden copy, pointing them to Citrix. And there's no limitation in you launching it out of Citrix, because when they do get a new computer, they do get a different version of Adobe or something like that, and that causes a lot of issues, them working reliably. So, and Rhonda is asking something about, can you use Office integration when the Unity client is Citrix? And I actually want to answer that, but Office integration. So I want to give one example of the Office integration. I built a workflow when they are reviewing the doc, and the answer is yes. The short answer is yes. Yes, you can use the Office integration. And just to give an example of it, there was a situation where we had to, they're reviewing the documents in the workflow. If they say, oh, this document does not belong to me, I got to go email it to another department. That's not going to be handled by our department. They were emailing the documents, but to a non-OnBase user or to a outside person, like an authorization coordinator or something that is, outside of their department. So they were using, I built them a button to say, email this document via Outlook. So when they click on it, it would just run the normal program just to automatically attach that document as a PDF attachment. All they had to do is just type in the email and then click send, and it would send the email. It wasn't working straight out of the box, but what we had to do is enable the user's Outlook account and their Citrix profile. Once we did that, it was working. Before that, it was getting you a nasty error saying that Outlook cannot send blah, blah, blah. So yes, it is Office integration is available, but you have to enable the user's Office access for that function in the Citrix server. And I called the Citrix engineer and it was like a 5-minute fix. He's like, oh, I know exactly what to do. Anyways, just that's an answer for that Office integration. And Alan Duke is asking, we also had problems with Unity 16, which were resolved with the upgrade to 18, which I'm actually very glad to hear because I've had a lot of issues with Unity 16, people calling me that their client is crashing when doing document separation or when they're reviewing, clicking around in a workflow. But let's say they're in a workflow and there's like 300 documents in the workflow and they're clicking around to different documents to review them. Even just clicking around, they were crashing. And I'm actually glad that upgrade 18 solves those problems because I have places that I really am looking forward to going to 18 because those problems still do exist today. So it's glad to hear that. So
yeah, it always seems each upgrade fixes the one problem, but maybe introduces a new one.
So can you maybe tell everybody about this incremental parallel upgrade process? Just walk through some example about what you do with that.
So the incremental parallel upgrade process, or IPUP as Highland will call it, is that the full upgrade could take more time, calendar time, and you could have users on multiple versions of the application at the same time. And you may need some additional servers, usually not, but it really allows you more flexibility in how you upgrade the system. So we actually had some issues when we first upgraded from 11 to 13, trying to do it all at the same time. And that's really when we heard about the ability to use an incremental kind of upgrade process. And so from our hard lessons learned of having a failure so early on in our upgrades is, we took a lot of that information and a lot of that lessons learned, and we just kind of applied it to a strategy going forward, where we could use this incremental process and take it piece by piece. And since then, we haven't really had any issues upgrading. We've had some of that flexibility, whether it's getting clients updated on the desktop or getting something deployed over Citrix. We've had that flexibility with this incremental upgrade.
So with the incremental update, is it like are you taking some of the web services, upgrading them and not upgrading the listeners, or are you doing by listener, or server by server? How are you doing that?
Yeah, so really it's kind of broken out into different stages. And again, I know this is on a lot of the Highland materials about upgrading, is that the first thing you need to do with an incremental upgrade is to upgrade your database. That's the first thing you have to do. But that's really the only thing you have to do. I know they do recommend some of the different timers and backend services to be upgraded as well, but that's not necessarily the case. So you can upgrade the database and you can make sure everything is working currently, with the upgraded database. Then you can schedule time for your backend services and timers, and then you can systematically move or upgrade your application pools, app servers, depending on how many integrations and different processes you have running to the new version as needed. And then you can actually roll out your upgraded clients, whether that's a push out to the desktops,
Yeah.
or, kind of upgrading your Citrix. And then kind of, you kind of wrap it all up and, eventually you're all going to end up on the same version. But, one of the great things is it does allow you the flexibility to do these in pieces and kind of fit them into your calendar. Um, and it also allows you, to find issues that could occur either by upgrading just the database or upgrading a service. You can find the issue quicker because it's more isolated. You know exactly what you upgraded or updated before the issue occurred. And so it kind of helps you with that troubleshooting. Where if you did all this at once and then somebody has an issue with the Unity client, you kind of got to sort through every layer just to figure out what could be the problem. So, it helps on a lot of levels, but the main reason we like this strategy is really the flexibility it allows us. We have Epic as our EMR shop, so we have integrations with Epic. We have the release of information integration. We use OnBase patient window. We have front office scanning and, the viewing through Epic.
So
In addition,
I wanted to ask you about that, Brian, about the rollout of the clients and then the integration with Epic, because there are some dependencies with this Ipop approach. So, for example, how would, you can't just wait for some of this, like a Unity client, right? You can't just do the web servers and not do the Unity client. Does that work? Like, can you be on?
No,
right?
so you have to do your if you do your web servers and upgrade those, then you also have to upgrade the client at the same time. There is the flexibility where you could create a new, application pool specifically for Unity client on the new version, and you can leave the old version running. It'll run just fine. And then, you have users using the old version, and then you can slowly transition them to the newer version of the Unity client, and eventually you'll get them all moved over, and then you can shut down that old app pool, and remove the Unity client from Citrix or remove it from their desktops.
Okay. So I have also one question from Scott. Says, do VB scripts work in 18? He's asking for that.
Which scripts?
VB script, Visual Basic scripts. I think he might probably have some VB scripts on the on the unit, probably on the Unity. I think he said it was very big back in the day, version 3.5.
Yeah, we actually, on version 18 now, we have some old, we actually have some old JavaScripts as well as VB scripts to do some help with some of our workflows. And we have not run into any issues with any of the scripts running.
Yeah, I am currently on 16, and we do have a VB script kind of a thing, and it's running, but I don't know the 18.
Yeah, no, it should run fine. Obviously, we do have our infrastructure set up is we have our production environment, and then we have a scaled down dev environment that our team uses. We also have a training environment, which we stage documents and different things.
Training environment for OnBase?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Never heard of anybody having one before.
Yeah, we actually have several environments. So, production obviously is self-explanatory, but our dev environment integrates with, Epic's build, Epic stage environment, and several other Epic environments. Um, and so we actually get, interface messages from build in our Epic build and stage environments. And we can receive things from Epic. We can pass things back through the interface. So it really gives you a good idea of being able to test changes, test the Epic integrations ahead of anything in production.
Yeah.
And then our training environment integrates with the Epic training environments that we have set up. However, we don't have live interfaces between those environments. Our interface team doesn't want to maintain all those interfaces.
What do you mean by
So we
that?
have to do a little bit more, staging of documents and whatnot, but it gives the users a good idea of what they'll see in production.
Okay.
So yeah, our OnBase environments are pretty closely related to, what our Epic system has as far as development and training and production.
Yeah.
So
And
we're lucky in that regard.
yeah, actually a great idea. So I didn't know this up until recently, actually, even in a production environment, because we had to do it at some point. You could have different services or listeners run on different servers on different on-base versions. So I did not know this, but we kind of had to because of a hiccup. Like you could be on base database 16 and have some HL7 listeners on one server, and you could have um, on database 18, you could have another listener dedicated to specific interfaces on a different server. I did not know this. Like I thought like when you upgrade, all the listeners, all the databases, everything gets upgraded and everything goes to newest, latest, and greatest. But it seems like you don't have to. Now I actually have been working on places where we still have a couple of listeners are still running on 16, but the database is upgrade to 18, and users are using Unity 16. So go figure. So, but
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's kind of I mean, from a maintenance, supporting it standpoint, it can definitely get tricky. I won't lie to you there. It is
yeah,
kind of nice when everybody's on the same version, but the ability to have that flexibility and the ability to be able to run different versions of different application pools, different services, even against an upgraded database,
mhm.
that's it's actually fantastic, and it's been a benefit. um, I'll share a secret. We actually have we have a few VM machines set up for running conversions. So, doing dip processes to bring in data. And on one of the machines, we actually have all of our old clients installed out there. So we have from 11 to 13 to 14 to 15 and then to 18. And the reason we actually did that is back in some of the versions of 13 and 14 is they had functionality around like being able to create charts and something else with like, I think even like EDI, different processing in order for like the chart creation. It was actually easier in the those clients to be able to do that, some of like version 13 and 14. So we actually keep those clients up and running on that server, which only our team has access to, just so that we can easily still do those functions of chart creation and a few other things that were easier to do in the earlier versions of OnBase. So
Okay. I have Doc Stutz asking, did you do an incremental upgrade going from 16 to 18? If so, anybody experience any issues while running mixed builds, version 16 clients against 18 database? So
No, yeah, so we actually still have some, well, we did have some 15 clients. So I'll tell you, I'll kind of give you some background. Last year, 2019, was kind of a big year. We were upgrading Epic to the May 2019 code. It was our next major upgrade, which at our organization prior to these quarterly releases, we only did Epic upgrades every 2 years. So it had been since 2017 since we did our last upgrade. And so being on version 15 of OnBase, we had to upgrade OnBase to be compatible with the latest Epic version. But in the meantime, we also are updating our infrastructure at SCL. We had server upgrades. We were going from Windows 7 to Windows 10 for our user workstations. So there was a lot to fit into our calendar last year. Um, and so being able to have that flexibility of running different versions of OnBase against even an upgraded database was very helpful.
Yeah, I actually ran into straight into that situation because the database upgrade, I remember we did in a test environment and it took us 3 hours. I'm all freaked out. I'm like, oh my God. So if it goes, OnBase will have to be down during that time. And if it's going to be 3 hours, we're screwed. So we decided, well, let's just do the database upgrade in production during a 3 hour epic downtime. So and what we end up doing is we left everything, all the Unity clients and everything on 16, the Unity app servers on 16 as well, but just upgraded database to 18 because we knew we were not going to get a 3 hour upgrade for at least a 3 hour downtime, at least for another year. So we slipped the database 18 upgrade in during that time. And right now we have listeners running on 18. We have Studio running on 16. We have Unity clients are on 16. Epic integration is running on 16 with the database upgrade, the database upgraded to 18. So the strategy was when we have a bunch of Epic upgrades coming and thrown us our way, that we won't have to be incompatible after a certain threshold. I think there's some 2019 threshold or something. You have to be on specific versions of OnBase. So we got the 18 upgrade for the database out of the way. So now we're ready whenever we want, but our users are using the Unity 16 interface, and Unity 16 and Unity 19 interface is so different. So we're giving ourselves some time.
Yep.
Not put the Unity client users to 18 and just leave them at 16 for now. But at least from a maintenance perspective, we're fine. If anybody says we want to do it, it won't be a convoluted process. The database is ready to go. And I have some more questions, Ryan. I want to take them. I know we've gotten to 48 minutes right now, but Corinthia is asking, the only thing for us when we are upgrading from 16 to 18 was that our 16 clients couldn't see batches that were committed with an 18 thick client.
Yep.
Until the Unity client, huh?
Yeah, that was a change in version 18. They changed the table where the batches are written when they're committed.
Okay.
I think it's called like the archive commit queue now. There's actually a script. It's easily run through configuration. And so kind of going back to, yeah, so there is a script that can be run in configuration that can move those committed batches to the new table.
Oh, there is?
Yep.
Okay, because she said we upgraded, she says that we upgraded our Windows services before upgrading Unity clients, so our users could not go into the commit queue to find batches until their Unity client was upgraded to 18. This is because batches are stored in a new table in 18. That's what you said. Oh, so you're talking about that script then? Okay.
Yeah, so there is one thing, that's a good call out. I forget kind of I should put this under the issues here is that, yeah, one of the biggest things for reporting our committed batches is they did move them to a new table, and they have a script that you run from configuration, and it moves all the batches from the the archive queue or something to the archive commit queue, and then they're able to see them just fine. Um, so the reason we still actually run that script intermittently, we actually still have some clients running on 15 due to a snowbound DLL issue and the viewing of writefax PDF files.
Yeah, what is this snowbound DLL thing? I hear about it. Just it's kind of like a it's like an urban legend. Can anybody explain to me what this is? Because I keep hearing from snowbound DLL from anybody who's gone through this upgrade.
Yeah.
So dying to know.
So there's actually a couple things. One of them is the snowbound DLL, which is a third-party DLL that Highland uses to render or view the documents. So anytime you view a document, whether it's through Epic or OnBase itself, it uses this snowbound DLL. And there was a change made with the DLL and that Highland has in certain releases of 18. And what it does is writefax actually, how they create their PDF files, it's in some weird format or something. And so what happens is this snowbound DLL, you're not able to view those writefax PDF files correctly. It kind of skews the image.
Okay.
And I forget what version. They said it was supposed to be fixed by version 49, but it's not. I actually think it's more related to maybe like 62 is the magic number.
So is this only impacting people who have like the truly OnBase writefax integration? Or is it like for any PDF that is rendered out of writefax or any other?
Yeah, it really impacts any PDF file that comes from writefax. So we have the writefax integration, but we don't fully use it. So we still have writefax right out to a lot of network share files.
Yeah.
And then we pick up the files from there for upload into OnBase. So it really,
like you put it into a scan queue.
Yeah, put it into a scan queue for indexing action. You know, if it's a bad fax, they can delete it or whatnot.
But is it specific to writefax files, or is it just like
it is specific to writefax PDF files.
Writefax
So
PDF
any
file. Okay.
writefax image that you receive that's as a TIFF will be fine. It's only with PDF files. And the other issue we found is also with the PDF data logics that's installed as part of the app server install now, is PDF data logics. It helps with like being able to view and split PDF files in OnBase and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
There's an issue there where it's kind of like a memory leak or some other issue where it'll work or it'll allow you to update or work with PDF files for a while, but then it'll just stop working. And it's a known issue and it's fixed after version 1801 62 and higher. It's fixed in. That's why we're going to be upgrading to version, I think 89 is the latest version. Just because we have these two issues with the snowbound DLL and PDF data logics. So in order to fix those issues, we kind of have to upgrade our services as well as some of our application pools and app servers to a newer version in order to be able to upload, view, and work with PDF documents.
Yeah. So Jeff and Anthony are saying that to eliminate the PDF issue with the write facts, they are suggesting to change the output format from PDF to TIFF in the write facts configuration. So they were just, that was kind of like one of the suggestions that they make is, I believe one of the write facts admin screens have like, what kind of file do you want these faxes to have? In what folder do you want to write them? Yeah, there's a TIFF option there, I think. So
yeah, you can specify the format, and we did do that for the majority of our write fax files. They are written out in as a TIFF image, so we don't really have an issue with the majority of the files. However, we still have a couple areas that want them as PDF files. And so we still have issues with those files as well.
Alan Duke says, asking a question, we have the write fax license, like I'm assuming write fax integration license with OnBase, and would like to integrate with OnBase after we upgrade our write fax server, but it doesn't seem many people use it. Any reasons why not using this?
That's a great question, because I know we have the integration as well. And what the integration allows you to do is just write fax would write it specifically to a scan queue. So we have some of our scheduling areas in the hospitals. They, centralized scheduling, they receive faxes from write fax. So they actually, go out and work in the network share. And they review like the orders that come in or documentation. And they actually move them around and do different things with them within their workflows within that network shares. And then eventually when the document's ready to be uploaded or swept in, they'll actually move it to kind of like the final folder or whatever. And then OnBase will pick that up and they can index it there. But we haven't really used the integration because there's some areas that actually work within those network shares before the documents are uploaded. And if you use the integration, you would lose that capability.
They do work on the documents, you mean?
Well, they kind of review the document, review the order that came in. See if it's for like next week or next month. I remember setting it up, Brian, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to use this thing. It's so limiting. I don't remember though. It's been a long time, 5 years ago. This was a question from Alan. Why is nobody's using it? I remember setting it up, and it was kind of irritating because you only had a few options, but this was like in version, I don't know, 14 or something when I did it. It gave you an option to pick the scan queue, I think, where you want these to be imported into. So I think it tells you like you can specify a scan queue and maybe like a batch status. I think you could assign it to it. I don't remember the screens exactly, but I said, you know what, this is going to be, if I do a regular scan queue sweep, so from the folder, I had a lot more flexibility. So currently, when I'm doing write fax stuff, integration, anybody says like with write fax, it not just have to be just write fax. Write fax, there's SFax, there's so many different fax software. I just tell them just to give us a PDF, and if they can give us discrete data like patient name or something like that, that's great. But no, most of the time they don't have anything like that because it's fax. But if they can, that's great. Since most of these they don't, I've mainly used the importing into the scan queue option. So you build a scan queue and then you have them imported in there. And when you do that, in the processing options, there's a lot more flexibility to do what you want to do
rather than using what they call is the OnBase WriteFax connector. So the integration that they talk about this um, uh, with this connectors is it's just a connector that you install to your OnBase server, and it just kind of sweeps it to a scan queue. But there's not a lot of options for the processing options. Whereas when you go to the scan queues, you can manipulate so many different, all the options in the processing tab are available to you. And that was just kind of a deal breaker just when I looked at it. That's one of the reasons I think why I hope we answered Anthony's question as well. So
Yep, and we found something similar, and we last looked at it probably in 2014, and I don't think our WriteFax was robust enough. It's probably different now, but you know, our WriteFax wasn't robust enough to make it worth our while
mm-hmm.
use that integration, you know, back in 2014. So.
And Frank Duca from BSW Health is saying they have 700 phone numbers integrated with WriteFax, and they're continuing to add more. That's a great number. Oh, glad to hear that. All right. So, and Alan's saying it's a large number, and then he's also saying perhaps brainware will be much more powerful. I don't know. Maybe that's probably another day of discussion about brainware.
Oh yeah.
And Doug says you may be able to move their document review workflow from the fax file shares into a custom capture process. Yeah, so that's another thing with the WriteFax, I think, because back in the day we didn't have the capture process designer. Now we do. So there might be some new opportunities there. And interesting. I know this is a little bit off topic, but Frank just said something that kind of like got my attention, because this is some topic we've been talking about for quite some time. And while we have almost like 50 guests on this line, I'm itching to ask this. So Frank says we're going to do a pilot with Celerity. I hear this name a lot. So anybody want to chime in? Frank, do you mean when you say we're going to do a pilot with Celerity, are you talking about using the Celerity's Edco Celerity product for image capture and ditching OnBase image capture, or?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually going to, so Celerity can sweep from WriteFax. So Celerity is going to sweep all the documents into their recognition engine,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to attempt to determine the document type and the patient and all that. They're going to pull all these metadata they can out of the documents. The documents that they can successfully index will be sent back to OnBase in a DIP file, and we'll import those off of a timer. The ones that can't be indexed will go to their hordes of humans that are indexing documents.
Mm-hmm.
And so that eventually when they come back to us, they will all be ready for DIP import. The only things we can't process at this time are things that require action, like let's say you received an order from a doctor. You got to have somebody transcribe that order into Epic. So certain types of documents will be sent back to OnBase and then go into a workflow queue that's already built for those users to go in and perform the actions they need to on that document.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So I want to ask about this. So what was the compelling reasons around doing something with Celerity and not use some of the MedRec classification kind of thing? Was it too expensive or big of a project to do like a MedRec?
Well, we asked Highland to talk to us about Brainware, and Brainware just wasn't ready yet
Mm-hmm.
to do this. The other thing was that several other big healthcare clients in Texas have used Celerity, and they had a lot of good things to say about it.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, though, we're actually getting ready to look at Brainware to classify business documents.
Yeah.
So,
Frank, I want to make a comment on that. So yes, I hear people saying great things about Celerity too. I actually am working right now at one of the shops. It's an OnBase shop, but their entire capture process is done in Celerity. So right now, the work that I'm doing is we have OnBase, we have Epic, but we have Celerity too, and nobody is scanning anything using OnBase. Everybody who's scanning in medical records is using Celerity, Edco Celerity for their capture. And it's not that nice and glamorous like as people are saying. And depends on who you ask, because I'm the one who's
Frank,
getting the
I
doc.
don't know, Ediz may have frozen up again.
Oh, did I?
Sounds
Yeah,
like it.
Frank,
I can hear you
we
guys
use
just fine.
Edco as well. The main reason we switched over to using Edco was to gain some consistency of where documents were indexed between our hospital sites and even our clinics. So everybody kind of had their own idea of where this one form should go, and we really did it to kind of get some governance and consistency around where those doc types were indexed.
Was it accurate, Brian? Sorry, I think I was. Was it accurate, the classification logic?
Yeah, they actually, I mean, the one good thing that Edco can provide in their model is they have, they're already staffed to have people manually review the documents and index them if need be. And that's where they provide a benefit because it really reduces hospital staff and even HIM staff if you don't have to have a horde of people doing that indexing. And then of course, stage 7, where, you gotta have to try documentation in the chart, 24 hours to 48 hours after the document's created is, Edco staff 24/7. So as long as you get it scanned, they'll process it no matter what time of day.
I see.
And it's actually helped us out a lot and gotten us a lot more consistency with our medical record and chart.
What do you think about that, Frank? So is that kind of like your expectation of what will happen with Celerity?
Well, that's HIM's expectation. That will happen with Celerity. The real problem is that we get over 200,000 faxes a month, and it's just not sustainable, especially given, the fact that the office staffs are getting kind of reduced. And so now people are wearing multiple hats, and they just don't have time to sit there and figure out, well, what do I do with this document? What do I do with this document? But I think the ultimate goal really is to improve the quality of the medical record and the consistency, which is what Brian pointed out. I think those are some important things that we're looking to do. So, and then also, I think the goal would be ultimately to get rid of actual scanning into OnBase, but I don't think that'll ever go away completely. It'll just be really minimal, and because scanners are expensive and they break a lot and all that hoo-ha. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're finding too, is we're scanning less and less into OnBase, and we're doing a lot more interfaces. Obviously, we have the dip with Edco, but we're also reaching out to other systems to kind of get documents from there, whether it's through HL7 or having them drop files on the network share to upload and whatnot. So there's a couple of things I do want to mention, Ediz, before we kind of wrap this up. Is
sure. We're gonna do. I think we should do another discussion. One is what does everybody think about Celerity? That's one topic. I'm gonna write it down. And the other one was right facts, right? We want to do another discussion for right facts. And anybody else have any suggestions for topics for another podcast, please do let me know. I do appreciate you guys stepping up and just kind of joining the discussion. I do want to thank you, Frank, for that. And sure. We do appreciate your contribution. Let's go back to the upgrade discussion, and I'm taking notes for these, so we'll do another webinar for specific discussing, because I'm dying to know what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, So a couple quick things I want to point out with upgrading to 18 is that there was a big change in the HL7 standards that OnBase will process. And we actually found out through testing and even some in production um, for some messages that wouldn't process is that we actually had to clean up some of the messages and standards Epic was sending us to kind of comply with the new HL7 standards that Highland is expecting. So I wanted to just mention that as you're going to 18 and you're working with, the HL7 piece, is to really give that a good test and review, because you might see there might be a few issues here and there, depending on how your Epic or other EMR system is configured to send you ADT. So that was a big change. And the other one was really around deploying the Unity client over Citrix. The big change with Windows Server 2016 is they kind of deliver it with like everything's turned on with between the Windows server and the Citrix receiver. And we actually we had an issue where people would try to scan through the Unity client and it would just freeze on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we spent probably well over a month trying to troubleshoot. Yeah, it was probably more like a couple months troubleshooting, testing, and figuring out kind of which registry keys, which settings within the Citrix receiver would kind of return it back to a working situation.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally figured that out. But I just wanted to mention that if you're going to Windows Server 2016 and you have things deployed over Citrix, is you may have to look at how the Citrix receiver is configured and some different registry key information in order to get it to work correctly.
Actually, a lot of places I've seen, what they said, what, we're going to stick the thick client for heavy duty scanning. And and it's crazy. If you ask people from Highland, they'll be like, whoa, no. But but that's
yeah, you run into these issues and you kind of have to make up, get your workaround in place on the fly. So we did actually deploy more thick clients locally. We had those packaged up we had Unity client packaged up in Software Center, and that could be pushed out locally for the users that were really having problems. And we still had version 15 deployed over Citrix, which was on, I think, Windows Server 2012. So we actually had users revert back to version 15. And that's kind of nice with the other flexibility is we could easily move users back until we got the issue resolved, and then they could move forward to 18. But this issue isn't specific to OnBase, the Citrix receiver and Windows Server, but it's just something as you're changing your environment or your backend environment that you just need to be aware of when you're doing the upgrade. And then the other thing is with the ADO.NET connection string. So with version 18, the ODBC connection goes away for your application pools. It goes away for Studio. It goes away for your distribution service and a few other things. Only your thick client, so anything that runs as a Windows service like your HL7 will continue to use ODBC. And they have two recommended methods. As you see on the screen, you can do it as integrated security. And what that means is like your service account that runs the application pool, or your service account that runs the Windows, the service, has to be a user within your database with some different rights. And we set all of those up for our users. Or you can just use user ID, and you can use the old HSI user. We did find an issue where the integrated security doesn't run or function quite the same. We're unable to run workflow timers manually in the Unity client through integrated
Really?
security. But when we switch the security to use the HSI account, it works fine. And I only bring this up because when you read the documentation on ADO.net, the recommended best practice is to use integrated security. So we have a ticket open about this, but we don't have a resolution yet. But I just wanted people to be aware of this little difference. We have found some things don't function quite the same when we used integrated security for the ADO.net. But overall, the connection is way faster. It is phenomenally faster. We have clinics out in rural Montana. So you got to imagine their internet connection speed and whatever. And, using the Unity client over Citrix with an ADO.net connection string, they have no issues with the application freezing or anything like that. It works remarkably better. So this is definitely an improvement, but there are a few things to be, aware of as you move forward with it.
I see. That's really good.
And so I did put in there my contact info, Ediz, because hopefully we'll post it on community. But I encourage anybody, feel free to send me an email, give me a phone call if you do have questions about upgrading, questions about version 18. The issues we ran into with PDF data logics and the snowbound DLL. I'm happy to answer any of those questions so that others don't have to go through the same pain that we went through with trying to upgrade. So, and just anything, if you want to talk about forms and some of that work as well, or even EDCO, we use EDCO. I'm happy to answer anything. So
I think we really need to have a discussion around people's experience about Solarity, and what does it mean especially for like healthcare shops that use OnBase and Epic.
Yep.
What does that mean to bring in EDCO Solarity into mix? Is that worth it? It's not. And another one is about around WriteFax. I think just managing a lot of these external things. And I'm gonna see if we can just utilize some of the podcasts around those as well. So I also want to, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, before you wrap up, I just want to mention one other thing. I think a WriteFax podcast would be great. Our version of WriteFax, which is one of the newer, latest versions, it actually has a cool integration. I wouldn't really call it an integration, but using normal workflow functions, you can actually fax out a workflow to WriteFax. It's really cool, and we can kind of show you how we utilize that.
Oh, there is one? Oh my God! I was trying to write something.
I think it depends on the version of WriteFax you're on, and we can kind of find that out. But it's really cool. We got it to work where we can actually fax out the Unity without a WriteFax integration or anything like that. So it's pretty cool.
So about the, and I think people, Alan is asking if we're also interested in Highland Intelligent Classification. I think he's talking about the MEDREC classification. So I'm going to add that to the topics as well. So, and also want to say, these webinars, if any one of you guys on the line is interested in partially or fully to speak on a session, please do let me know. This is your guys' platform, all of ours platform actually. And for me, I'm just kind of like right now the party planner in some of this to make sure that we have because being in the HealthCare VOGUE board allows me to utilize some of the possibilities that we have to put like a webinar like this together. So, but that doesn't have to be like me. I can do the party planning. So, but I'm really interested in use you guys' areas on contribution. So very interested in that. Anybody says, you know what, I don't have a full hour of talking about or being a guest fully, but just I got like maybe 10 minutes of stuff that I want to mention or ask. So feel free to do those. And also, I'm also want to mention that I am planning, if Highland is okay with it too, I need to check with them, with the marketing team and a few other folks as well. Instead of just posting the PowerPoint and the video of this recording on the VOGUE HealthCare website, can we post this on Apple Podcast, or can we post it on YouTube? So those things, once I get clarification, as long as people are okay with that too, I'm going to ask that question if we can have these podcasts available, and so you can listen to it when you're in your car. So I know people are not maybe traveling that much, but I used to be spending 2.5 hours on the road before COVID-19 hit. And it was just like mostly talk radio or whatever I would listen to. But it would be nice if for those commuters out there to be able to just be in the car and listen to an OnBase podcast about something, because you're just like listen to music or whatever, in case you guys are interested in doing something like that. Anyways, so hoping that I will have some updates to find out whether we can post podcasts like this in Apple Podcast or in YouTube. So once I get that clarification, but at the minimal, we will put the PowerPoint in the HealthCare VOGUE page, and as well as the recording. With the recording, I am learning. I've never done it in my life before. I'm learning a little bit of video editing and sound editing a little bit in my spare time. I am just slightly editing these videos, maybe put some music intro or something like that in front of it to make it more appealing on a webcast, in a podcast audience. So those are kind of like the general updates. Thank you for everybody joining in. I thank you, Brian, taking the time to do this. I know it takes a lot of energy putting the PowerPoint together, discussing. We do have some conversations with our, just like with Brian, with anybody else, we do get together a few times before the podcast, either on email or phone or chat or something to discuss what we're trying to talk about. So there's a little bit of preparation that goes into this. And I do appreciate everybody's doing this for free, nobody's getting paid. So for anything like this, and we appreciate the generosity and doing that. And thank you for everybody's time, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thanks for everybody for joining.
Bye-bye. Thank you.